Hi, Christina.
Lisa, how are you?
I'm doing well. It has been
Good,
a crazy busy few days for us here.
hasn't it? And if we're feeling that craziness, I can only imagine how crazy all the bakers of season 8, which was finally the premiere was on Sunday, the 8th of October.
6th of
How
October.
the 6th, sorry. I don't even know what day it is. That's
I
how
know.
that's how
That's
exhausting
exactly.
it's being, right?
I
So the
was
6th of
debating. I was
October.
like, should I correct her? Yeah.
Yes, I'm glad you
Somebody
did. I'm
will.
glad you did. Because otherwise people would be going, what the
What
heck is she
year are
talking
we
about?
in?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So thank you for correcting me. I do appreciate you doing that often. And I know I'm sorry that you have to do
Often.
it often,
Yeah.
but I'm
Do I
glad
do it
every time
often?
you do it.
I
Well,
try to do it subtly when I do it. I'm just that,
good. All
I'm so
good.
bad with those
No,
things.
it's all good. I appreciate when I've misspoken that somebody does step in to correct because I think that's really important. So I certainly do
And
not take offense to any of that at all. So
good.
please, please, please continue to do that. And
But
also
please do
for
it for
anybody out
me.
there, just let me know. I'm good. I totally
Absolutely.
accept full responsibility for the crap that comes out of my mouth, good or bad.
And I'm much more sensitive and much more worried about what people are thinking of what comes out of my mouth. But Christina says it's okay most of the time.
It is more than okay. So anyway,
So
but
please
anyway,
correct
going
me if need be.
absolutely. So we digressed a little bit, but going back, what a crazy ride it's been for them, I'm sure. There's been so much anticipation. Obviously, they record the whole season of the tent way back at the beginning of summer, end of spring, beginning of summer,
Yeah.
and then they wait for so long and they have to keep all those secrets. And
Yes.
I can't imagine how, the craziness that ensues with all of that.
Oh, I
And
can't
then
imagine.
and then finally, the day arrives when it actually does get released. And then the outpouring of people reaching out to you and they're so happy for you. And, they're just thrilled that they know somebody that's baking in that iconic tent and like all that excitement
Yeah.
and just answering all of those emails and
Oh,
text
yeah.
messages and
Yeah.
DMs and, all of that stuff. So their work has just begun on that side of it in terms of promoting the show
Mhm.
and helping promote all the bakers that are on this season. So
Yeah. And
yeah,
so
I'm
now
pretty
they are
excited.
in this club. They are on TV. They're famous. People know them for baking, right?
Yes.
So anything else that they do, this is their thing, right?
Mhm.
So they're going to get contacted for, will you bake this for me? Oh,
Right. Please.
will you come to this event? Will you do this, right? They get to
Yeah,
schmooze. No pun
exactly.
intended after the
The schmooze
schmoo cake.
cake. I know.
By
That
the
looks
time
so
this
good.
airs, who knows if that pun will be relevant anymore?
Oh, absolutely it will be. Because I mean, how can a schmoo cake ever go out of favor, to be honest with you,
Now
right?
that we know that it exists, hey, and I am looking forward to baking my schmoo cake, which is
Me
what
too.
I'm baking. What are you baking?
I'm going to be baking up a schmoo cake as well.
Right
So
on.
we'll have to compare schmoos.
Yes, we shall
We
compare
shall compare
schmoos.
schmoos.
And I know that Vincent said he was making one too. I think
Yeah.
Steve
And
was
Steve,
planning on making one. So yeah, the four of us will bake in four different cities and
and I did post that out in our Instagram as well. If anybody else is looking to
oh
bake a
good.
schmoo cake too. And there were quite a number of people from all sorts of people from around the world that are looking forward to baking up a schmoo cake as well. And then
That's
we only had probably a handful of people that went, yeah, that's not happening on my end.
well, I
But
hope they
everybody
send in
else,
some pictures.
I hope so too. I hope so too. In fact, when we post our schmoo cakes, we'll actually try to get everybody else to, yeah, we'll do a hashtag schmooze with
Hashtag.
us or we're here for the schmooze or whatever.
I love it.
And hopefully, other people will, showcase their schmoo cakes. Now,
That's a great idea.
are you going to do any variations to yours or are you going to bake it true to the
Baby.
recipe?
No, I'm a technical purist.
Oh,
I
okay.
want to do, I'm very sad that I have to actually, that I have the whole recipe in front of me.
Yeah.
I would rather have it paired. What are you guys doing? There's some weird sounds coming from back there, but I am kind of sad that I don't have the pared down recipe and
Yeah.
that I actually have the whole thing because I would like to see if I could do it the way they do it in the tent.
Yeah,
It
same.
will be very interesting regardless, but I like to make it look as much like the ideal cake that they have sitting there between Bruno and Kyla. Um, yeah,
Yeah.
if I possibly can. So,
Yeah. I was just thinking because I saw somebody on a thread, I think it might have been Heather from
yeah,
season 7, who
Heather's
said,
Wild
oh,
Bakes.
yes, Heather Wild Bakes. And she's obviously from Manitoba and
Right.
probably familiar with the shmoo cake. And she offered a suggestion to add some different seasonal spices, which would be perfect if you're serving your shmoo cake
Mhm.
on this weekend coming
That's
up,
true.
which for us is our Thanksgiving weekend.
Yeah.
So,
So, speaking of the premiere of the Great Canadian Baking Show, it was a very, very happy day, but it was also a very sad day for us because our friend Christine, who blessed the tent with her presence this season, was the first to leave the tent. And it was really hard for us to watch.
it really
But
was.
we do have her here with us today so that she can tell us all about what her experience was like and how she's doing on this crazy weekend now that she's suddenly famous.
Exactly. No, and I can't wait to introduce her because we've obviously known her for, I guess, going on a year and a bit.
And
We
more than that, yeah,
got
yeah.
more than that
That's
online, but
what that's about when
we actually got
met in
together and
person.
did some baking together almost
Yeah,
a year ago to the date,
yeah,
actually.
yes.
And yeah, it'll be so we know and we
Well,
know
guess.
how incredibly talented and more importantly how wonderful a person Christine is. And I think we saw glimpses of that on the premiere. And
Yeah,
I saw, hopefully we'll still see tidbits of her on all the different promos that
yeah.
CBC will be posting over the
Saw
next
one today.
two. I did too, which is
Yeah,
awesome.
that
So
was.
hopefully we'll continue seeing her because she is such a beautiful person inside and out and such a crazy talented baker. And so it's too bad that the rest of Canada didn't actually get to see the rest of a
Of
great
what she
journey
can
for her
do.
in the tent
Mhm.
and her true capabilities.
Yes, agreed.
But it'll be really nice to chat with her
Yeah.
today
All
and
right.
yeah, and introduce
Let's
her
let her
a
in.
little bit more. Yeah.
Introduce her to everyone.
Christine, welcome to the Baking Scraps, the Sweet Talk. Woo!
Oh, I love you guys.
It's the
Oh,
TCT together again. Woo! Trans
woo!
Canada Tarts.
Yes, for
Did you
those of
find
you who
what?
might not know,
What?
the three of us
Yes.
have known each other for a bit of time. We met through our love and passion for Great Canadian Baking Show,
I
and we
thought
met
you were telling
online.
me. I was like, oh, what? What does she have to?
I'm telling our audience,
Yes,
Yeah,
everyone.
everybody.
everybody out there. Anyway, so, and we actually got together about almost a year ago to the
Yeah,
date.
pretty much
Um,
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. And we actually baked the 1,000 layer moon cake, did the technical challenge kind of
Yeah.
blind with the help of Stephen Levitt, who we love and adore. And so anyway, yeah, so we've actually met in real life, which is odd for
Yeah.
people who meet online, I think sometimes.
Yeah.
So we were really lucky to do that. So and we were so thrilled when we heard that our friend Christine made it onto season 8 of the Great Canadian Baking Show. And we were like,
Yeah.
I'm going to pull a Rita.
The silent scream.
Yeah, really.
Is
We love
Vincent
her.
scared?
Yeah.
And
Vincent, don't get scared.
Yeah,
I don't
really.
think I can scare Vincent anymore.
No, he's used to
It
you now.
was, yes, it's true. We were so excited when we found out you were going to be on the show. We were ecstatic when we got to see those, bios come up and be like, that's my friend, that's my friend. And then to be able to watch you on Sunday was as thrilling as it was upsetting to
I
us,
know.
because it was very exciting to cheer for you and then just so sad to see your face when you left. And
Yeah.
so, do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got started baking?
Oh, well, I was 10, I think, almost 11. And and I didn't want to go to the babysitters after school anymore. We had lovely neighbors that looked after us while mom was at work. But my older sister was, I think, about 13 at the time, and she was going home. And I thought, you know what, I can go home. And mom said, fine, you guys are going to be there. Then you're going to get the laundry started, get supper started, dishes, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So Terry has never been a big cook. So that's just something I wanted to do right from day one. So, sitting with all of mom's cookbooks that she got when she got married and one of our community cookbooks and so on. Plus my grandmothers were both amazing bakers. Amazing, amazing, amazing. Um, I loved sitting and watching them make stuff.
Yeah.
And I always had questions. And it's funny because my dad's mom was not professionally trained, but she was a pastry chef.
Oh, wow.
And her, to this day, her apple pie is the best I've ever had, ever. I haven't had anything as good as hers. And I remember sitting at her kitchen table, the last place that they lived, and watching her do probably like four or five all at once. And I asked her, I said, will you like tell me, can you give me the recipe? Can you show me how to do it? She just laughed. And she's like,
Oh,
there's no recipe. I've been making these since I was 13.
sure.
Okay. All I knew for sure was that she loved mixing apples. Like that day, I distinctly remember her having Granny Smith and something else. And she swore by lard. She never used
Mm,
butter.
for
Sorry,
her
Bruno.
crust, yeah.
She
Bruno.
never used, but no, but I think that's
Sorry,
because,
Bruno.
Sorry,
yeah,
Bruno.
yeah. I was gonna use butter for everything. But I think that's just because, of the war and so on, like they just didn't have butter
Yeah.
back then, and lard was so much cheaper
Mhm.
that that's just what she got used to using. So,
Yeah.
but it was amazing. It was so tender and flaky and oh, it was so good. But yeah, that's kind of how I got started. I remember flipping through Mom's Black River cookbook, and there's no pictures in it. It's just like typed up recipes. And flipping through them and thinking, okay, like going to the dessert section and saying, like, what sounds good?
Yeah.
I remember seeing this little recipe and it sounded different because you had to cook it on the stove first. I'm like, it sounds weird, but they were cream puffs. And I'm like, oh.
Oh,
And then there was like recipes for three different kinds of filling after. And one was like Jiffy buttercream, and one was something else sweet, and then one was chicken salad. And I'm like,
shoe pastry with
chicken
chicken
salad?
salad.
Why would I put chicken salad in a dessert? I had no idea. And I had no idea that this was choux pastry and that it was supposed to be hard to make. And I'm like, well, it's one of my neighbor's recipes. I can't, like I can do that. So I'm pretty sure I made those when I was 10. And
That's amazing.
they probably looked atrocious. There was no piping bags around back then. You just spooned it out and so on.
Mhm.
But um, I fell in love with them then. And I mean, she was one of my favorite things. I don't make it a lot intentionally because I'll just eat them all.
Sorry, what did you say you fell in love with?
Shoe.
I thought you said I fell in love with the men. And I was like, what men
No,
are we talking about?
Them. I fell in love with them then, I think is
them,
what you said.
them, then. Yeah.
Lisa, mind out of gutter.
That's not gutter.
But focus.
I was
We're
listening and I was
talking
like,
baking,
That's a
not
discussion
dating.
for our texting later.
yeah, when we're
Baking,
not.
not dating.
I'll tell you about those later.
We're the dating scraps after hours, right?
Ooh, a spin-off of baking scraps.
Yeah, Christine, you want to host that one?
It's like extra slice.
Yeah. So tell us more. Tell us about how you actually ended up, like your journey to the tent. I
Yes.
know that when we met, you had the same dream. We all three had the same dream. We all shared what we were doing to when we applied to get into the tent and what kind of audition bakes we were planning on bringing to the casting calls and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
You actually were on a different show before you were on this one.
A little bit.
A little bit.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah, tell us about that.
A little bit about that.
It was, well, cross country kickoff. They had done like basically two different seasons. I was on the first one that they did in the holiday one. But I was just in the Halifax part. So there was 8 of us that came together from the Maritimes, Atlantic provinces actually, because Catherine came from Newfoundland. And we met at the Citadel. It was a beautiful location. I had never been there.
Mm-hmm.
And same production company that does The Great Canadian. It was proper. So that's where I met Meredith and, some of the crew and so on. And they
Awesome.
were awesome then. And it was fun to see like the behind the scenes stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But it was quick and it was a totally different format. Like there was no baking. We had to make something ahead of time. I drove from Moncton with like 2 different tiers and stacked them in the hotel room and almost lost the top one when I was sticking it on top. It was stressful. But it was so fun. And I mean, I still talk to those girls really often, like very often. I've gotten messages from a lot of them over the last couple of days. So it's,
bet.
yeah.
I bet.
It
That was
was
when
a
you
quick
and I
one-day
started.
thing, but yeah.
Yeah. That was when you and I started talking more and more. Was
Yes.
the cross country kickoff.
Yes.
Yeah, because we were both trying to get on it.
And you went away and came home sick.
Yeah, I went away to Scotland and was planning everything and then came home with COVID and could not be on the show. But that's okay. Because it was exciting to live vicariously through you and then to watch you on TV.
It was a good, like, get your feet wet kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I think it helped when I got to the tent because I wasn't bothered by the cameras, some different people have asked me that and they're like, oh, I could never do that. I said, you are so focused in on what you're doing and the clock is counting down the whole time in your head that, I mean, they want you to stop and talk to them when they ask you questions. So you have to be able to do that. Is one of the things they look for at the in-person auditions and the Zoom bakes after, and you need to be able to multitask.
Yeah.
And that helped a little bit because even though we weren't baking in Halifax, I was still, there was still 5 or 6 cameras in the room and, they would make you do things again. Actually, I had to do my whole bring up my cake and set it in front of Mary and Andrew twice. I was the only one that had to do it twice. Like I was almost done and they stopped me and they're like, we're so sorry. We need you to do it again. I'm like, okay.
Reset places, everyone.
Yeah, exactly. So it got, I don't know. The cameras didn't bother me because there's people holding them. So I would just talk to them.
Yeah.
And a couple times I made the camera guys laugh. So that was fun. Yeah. There's one in particular. I thought they might turn into a meme, but apparently not yet. I just saw those actually, the gifts that they did.
There's still time.
Yeah.
There's still time.
Oh, yeah. That one would be good actually.
Nice.
But yeah, that it's such a, I don't know. I don't know. I don't want to get too far ahead if you guys have plans for other questions, but that other show did help, I think, quite a bit. And it was fun. It was nice to get to know the girls. We spent about 12 hours together and
yeah, it's nice. And those connections you make as baker to baker are so special. I mean, when we all first got together, it was like we'd known each other for ever.
I know.
Right? Because we had so many commonalities, especially when it came to our baking and just that love and baking. I think it does. It spreads so much joy and there's so much passion around what we're doing and crafting, working with our hands, working with our brains, trying to come up with the creative, let those creative juices run and whatnot. So I think there's just so many commonalities that kind of like bind us all together. No pun
Yeah.
intended.
Puns
Yeah.
are always intended around here.
Yeah,
Maybe just
exactly.
a little. But so it's kind of been a little in your blood then to be on TV with your bakes. So
Well,
you did.
it's happened a couple times, but yeah, it's funny because I was talking to somebody at my dentist office recently, and she's like, "So are you, although the ones that I watch on Food Network, are you going to go for those too?" And I'm like, "No, no."
There's
That's,
just something about,
they're I love watching those, and my niece does too. Like she'll come down at night after her brother goes to bed, and she's like, "Can we put on the baking show?" Which
oh.
one? And we'll watch like anything that I can find or get on demand or whatever. And she loves them just as much as I do. So
Cool.
um
Maybe we'll see a future generation of.
I would love to, yeah, she loves decorating stuff. So I've been able to get a piping bag in her hand, and she loves doing that stuff and adding things. That we actually did that for her birthday party last week. So I had made like 3 dozen cupcakes, and the kids all ended up with 3 or 4 each, I think. And my sister got a ton of candy and things to put on them. And then I just did up, chocolate buttercream, and I did up some vanilla, and they went to town on it. And it's funny because there was 8 or 9 kids, and 8 kids, including Aubrey and Dominic. And I said, okay, how many people have used a piping bag before? And all of them except 3 put their hand up.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
Yes. It
Awesome.
was so exciting for me. Yeah, I was shocked actually that there was that many. Like I
Yeah.
figured there were 2 or 3 out of
Mhm.
8. But
Mhm.
yeah, like 5 or 6 of them put their hand up and said, yeah, I've used a piping bag. So
That's awesome.
um that's something that I would like to do. And it's funny because a couple of her little friends that she goes to daycare with after school have asked me in the summertime, like, would you teach us, can we do a baking class with you?
Oh,
But
Nice.
that is something I would really like to do, whether it's, birthday parties or just,
mhm.
having 2 or 3 kids in and just teach them. Adults too, I think
Yeah.
down the road, that's what I'd like to do. But um,
Like
yeah.
Maggie does, the type of
Yeah,
thing that Maggie does.
exactly. Yeah, like Maggie does. So yeah, ideally, like in a perfect world down the road, find a location that I can do that at, and
Hmm.
have a dozen people in, and teach them how to do,
I think
whether
that
it's
would be
grading cakes or
fantastic.
doing.
Perfect for you.
It
I would
would.
love to do that. I love to teach.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't think it would be something I ever like. It wasn't something I ever thought of doing until I got into scrapbooking.
Mm.
And I mean, we were just saying that, the mutual love of something, bonds people together. And I was lucky enough to have that with scrapbooking too.
Yeah.
And back in the early to mid 2000s, it blew up.
Hmm.
Mhm.
And, everybody was doing it. There was new companies every day, new product all the time. There was stores, independent stores here, not just the big box ones. And I ended up working for a friend of mine. She became a friend of mine, that had a scrapbooking store out in Quispamsis, and she got me to teach, some layout classes and card classes and things like that on the, Friday nights or whatever. And I loved it. I
Yeah.
loved, starting with an idea that I came up with, and then just giving 10 people the materials to do it.
Mhm.
And it's kind of like the technical.
Yeah.
Everybody's turns out just a little bit different. They can put their own spin on it. Not that we're supposed to do that with the technical, but I loved seeing what 10 different people would do with all the
Mhm.
same products.
Mhm.
So fascinating that you mentioned that, actually, Christine, because
Yeah.
right before you came on, we were just talking about that, literally about the shmoo cake and
Yeah.
how we are all planning on making it. And so Steve and Vincent are planning on making it. And then there
Oh,
were a bunch of people who commented on the Baking Scraps post, basically saying that, yes, they're planning on making the cake. And then we were talking about do you put your own spin on it, or do you, I'm a technical purist. I like it to look as much like the original
Yeah.
as possible. But I mean, I think that's where the signature is kind of coming in, where you get to put
Yeah.
your own spin on things.
Sure.
But it's fun to
Yeah.
think about how everybody would kind of make it their own.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But I was thinking
exactly.
about just adding some different spices to it. So the look and stuff would still be the same, but
Mhm.
Heather, who was from Manitoba, Heather from season 7,
Okay.
basically was saying in one of the threads for somebody's post on Instagram today about how you could add in some fall
Yeah.
flavors into the
Oh
schmoo
yeah.
cake.
Oh
So I'm
yeah,
like,
Pumpkin
for
spice
sure.
everything.
Exactly.
so,
Yeah. That actually would be really good,
no,
especially if
Oh,
you are using the pecans.
it
yeah,
would be a
exactly.
perfect
Yep,
complement to the caramel and the pecans. Yeah.
Yep.
totally. Maybe a little
But
cardamom.
oh, you
Yeah,
have to have
Because you
exactly.
cardamom
know I love cardamom.
in there.
Yep.
We love
A
cardamom.
little bit of certain whiskey that
Yeah.
I
Oh,
don't
yes.
know.
The
You're
spice box whiskey.
Well, I was
yeah.
actually thinking of trading out that caramel and using
Yes,
the
exactly.
Yeah, because that
recipe for
caramel was
caramel.
really a caramel sauce because it was a brown sugar and butter
Mhm.
Yes. Yeah,
and
it
corn
was.
syrup. So not really a true caramel, which I
More
think,
like a butterscotch. Yeah, it wasn't,
yeah.
we didn't
Butterscotch.
start with a dry caramel, but I think they did that. I don't know if that's traditional or if they did it for time because it didn't
Mm,
take as long as
Hmm.
yeah.
making a normal caramel did. But
Yeah.
um when I was watching your recap with the guys, I think it was Vincent that said something about, a lot of people had oozing and stuff.
Mhm.
And you had mentioned that, we were talking about it and, I think 10, 15 minutes to have it cool. And I think that's why a lot of people had problems. We just didn't have enough time.
No.
And obviously, Jen's looked amazing. And it happens almost in every technical, like it can be done,
Mhm.
Yeah.
but every single step has to go right for
Hmm.
it to be even close to what they want it to
Hmm.
look like.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And that was one that I didn't get to try after. I can't even remember. It's funny because there's certain things that stick out and I'll
Hmm.
never forget them. And then there's other things that I don't remember at all. Like
Yeah.
even when it aired and we watched it, I'm like, I totally don't even remember saying that, but I
Mhm.
always
Yeah.
did.
It's
Um,
fun. That we
yeah,
find that with the podcast too. I'll be
yeah,
watching. I'm
exactly.
like, oh, I'm actually entertained by that, and then I'll find myself thinking something, and then I'll say it on the podcast, and I'll be like, okay, I obviously have a certain way of doing things or thinking about things, but
Yeah,
yeah, you forget
exactly.
what you've said, and it all
Yeah.
comes back later, and you're like, huh,
Yeah.
blue.
So we've talked a little bit about the technical, obviously. So let's back up a little bit and yeah, just a little bit. We'll go back a little bit in time.
That's me. I do that. Sorry.
No, because we
Rewind.
always go on all these like fun little tangents and little rides, but let's bring it back. And let's talk about your journey to get to the tent. So what made you decide? So you'd done the Great Canada, what's it, the
Cross
cake,
country
Cross-country
cake
cake
off.
off.
cross country cake off. Thank you. Sorry about that. The cross country cake off. And then you decided to apply for the Great Canadian Baking Show, or had you applied to the Great Canadian Baking Show before?
I had applied for season 6. That was the first time I applied. I didn't, I knew about the show. Okay, I'm gonna back up. Um, just before COVID, I had heard there was a British baking show that
Mhm.
was incredibly popular. Um, I had been taught because I have cousins in England and I had been mentioning it to them and I knew that some of them watched it but I hadn't seen it yet. And then once I did find it on CBC Gem, I binged watched every season that was on there. I think at that point they were on like season 5 or 6, maybe 7. And then I realized that we had one too, and they were getting ready, I think, for season 3 to air.
Mhm.
So I binged watched season 1 and 2, loved every second of it. And I thought, okay, this is different. This is special. And I was really glad that ours was really close to the British one
Mhm.
because I just loved the format. I loved the people. I loved that it was home bakers and not professionals, not bakery owners, not pastry chefs. Like it was people like my grandmother that taught themselves how to bake. And it was just so much fun to
Yeah.
watch. And they're hilarious. I mean, they just, I mean, I'm a little partial because my, my grandmother was British, but I think they're all hilarious. And just so incredibly talented. And I thought, I can do this.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like I love to bake anyway. I was baking, you know, cakes for my family and my niece and nephew's birthday cakes every year. I thought, you know what? I clearly need to practice a lot that I've never tried before. Um, but I sat down and I made a list and I thought, okay, what do they really look for? What is a common ingredient or decoration or um like bake that they get them to do? And certain things popped up. I mean, I was comfortable with cakes and cookies and you know all that kind of stuff. But pastry was actually something I wasn't that comfortable with because my grandmother was so good at it.
Mhm.
I didn't want to try, like I just did obviously I tried it different times and it wasn't as good as her. So I'm like, you know what? I'm just gonna concentrate on other things. But I thought if I'm gonna do this, then I have to step out of my comfort zone. I have to try things that I think are hard right now. And now I love making pastry. Absolutely love it. I mean, I'm a butter girl. 100%. I am a butter
We've seen
girl.
your freezer.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
Exactly. Hey, mine is nothing compared to Steve's.
Oh yeah,
Holy
no.
crumb.
I saw the picture of Steve's butter freezer. And I'm more than a little bit jealous. Yeah, but I
A lot.
do have like one of those little stand-up freezers that I is
Mhm.
just for baking. So
Yeah.
fillings, cakes, cupcakes, you know, and my butter. So because if I can get it on sale or free, then it goes right in the freezer. Um,
Free butter.
yeah,
That would be good. How do you
yeah,
get
I'll tell
free
you how I got
butter?
free butter. Um, yeah, so I knew if I wanted to do this, I was gonna have to practice and
Mhm.
practice a lot. And I remember the first time I made an all butter pie crust for one of my favorites, which is coconut cream.
Hmm.
I couldn't believe it. Like it turned out the whole thing was from scratch. You know, there was none of that, you know, edible oil
Product.
Product.
product stuff. It was real whipping cream. It was, you know, pastry cream made from scratch. It was like the whole nine yards. And it was one of the best things I'd ever made. And I thought,
Mhm.
I can do this.
Yeah.
Like I can do this. It's going to be hard, but I can do this.
Yeah. And
So,
you did.
I mean, I watched the show over and over and over again, and I made literal notes and mental notes. And I'm like,
Mhm.
okay, well, I also have to try something else that scares me to death, which is bread. And until I decided to start working towards this, I didn't even own a stand mixer.
Mhm.
So I didn't like and I had always wanted one, but you know, they're pricey.
Mhm.
And especially KitchenAid, because that's what I thought I was, you know, I assumed that's what everybody had. And then when I realized they were using Cuisinarts on the show, I thought, no, I should get a Cuisinart. And I've had two
Smart
now.
woman.
And like
Yeah,
I
very
even
smart.
have the oven mitts that they give us on the, and I thought, I want good silicone oven mitts. I get the Cuisinart ones. I love them. Um, but yeah, I, I thought if this is what I'm going to use in the tent, then I need to know what it's capable of doing.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
And
very smart.
I've made everything under the sun out of it. So I mean, if I, you know, had any recommendations for somebody that wants, and you certainly don't have to. I mean, you definitely don't. But if you want that extra little bit of comfort
Yeah.
once you're in there,
Mhm.
I would get one.
Yeah.
Um, because they, you know, Cuisinart's a good name. It's a good
Mhm. Oh,
quality. Um, you know, all of their baking stuff is good quality. And there was many Cuisinart things when we were at
Mhm.
like at the station.
Yeah.
Um,
So I just have to
so yeah,
tell
I got
Chris,
used to
I need a fourth stand mixer.
that. Like, yeah, well, you might have to ask Chris that, but
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe part with one of them, but it I like the size of the bowl too because it's slightly different. It's 5.5 quarts.
Oh, so it's
Um, yeah, and it's like I can do a big batch of Swiss meringue buttercream in it. I've done bread, I've done, cinnamon roll dough, pizza dough. Um, yeah, it it has done everything I needed it to. So I've been happy with that. But yeah, I decided that I was going to work towards it, and it's been about 4 years that I said, okay, I'm gonna really
Commit to
make
it.
a list. I have a baking bucket list. And I'm going to go through everything. There's still a few things that I didn't feel super comfortable with, even by the time I got to the tent. Caramel was one of them because it just didn't come up, like I don't, unless I consciously said, okay, I'm going to make this
Yeah.
and I need caramel for it,
Yeah.
then it wasn't something that you put in anything, even though you can. So I make it a lot more now. I just actually put it in a cake on the weekend,
Yes.
salted caramel, and I love adding it to my carrot cake.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Oh,
yeah,
good.
it was for kids, so I didn't add any of the spice box to it, but I need to make another batch so I can.
Yeah, no kidding.
But you can still add in all the other stuff like the vanilla
Yeah,
and the sea salt and whatnot. It's pretty good that
it's
way.
so good.
Or
Yeah.
or other, you could add cinnamon in there. There's a whole pile of stuff you could.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah. Yeah. No,
absolutely.
I need to make
Please.
another batch of that.
So we want to know how that felt to get
Mm-hmm.
that first confirmation video when they told you, "Hey, you made it."
It took me a second. It took me a second to register that that's what she said. You know, you're going to be on season 8. And yeah,
It was a sweet, sweet moment.
and of course I started crying right away because that's what I do. But um, it just, you're in shock. I mean, there's no other word for it. You're in total shock because especially where it's something that you've worked for and dreamed of and wanted to do so badly for what feels like forever.
Mhm.
Um, when they finally say you're in the tent, there's nothing like it. I mean, I'll never forget that. I'll never forget
Never
Helen.
seen your eyes so wide as on that video, I tell
Right? Yeah.
you.
Yeah, I'll never forget telling me that ever. Yeah.
Such an amazing moment. We're so happy that you got that moment. And then, so that's exciting. But then fast forward a few
And you
weeks
walk in.
later, you're walking into the tent.
Oh, look I lost it before I even got to the tent. I mean, it's very long days. You guys have heard. We're up early. I think we were on set the first, not, we say set, but we went down to the film center, I think we were there by 6:30, 7 o'clock in the morning that first day. We weren't filming or anything. We were just, but we were doing interviews, they were taking pictures, we were doing lots of, pre-filming stuff.
Yeah.
And they took such good care of us, you guys. Like, I cannot say enough about the crew. I can't.
That's good.
They're so amazing and they took such good care of us. And, yes, there's a lot of sitting around, but that's when we all get to talk. We get to know each other. We get to hear everybody's stories. We get to nudge Marcus awake from his nap when it's time to get his mic put on. Poor Marcus. He was working almost the whole time.
Oh,
Because of
wow.
when we filmed, he's an accountant.
Oh
He
no.
was still like, it was still tax season for businesses
Yeah.
and so on. So he still had to work. So we'd get home at 8 or 9 o'clock at night, home back to the hotel, and he'd have to work until so yeah, I mean, that in itself and him to be able to do what he did in the tent still is just amazing to me. Like, they're all amazing. I love them all dearly, but yeah.
They're
He,
wonderful.
he would nap every chance he got.
Good for him.
Yes.
Sometimes we'd have to, yeah, and totally don't blame him. So we would, nudge him awake. But you can tell that every single person that works on this show genuinely loves it.
Yeah. Yeah.
There are so many people. I mean, I don't even know even if I had stayed the whole 8 weeks, I don't know if I'd be able to remember everybody's name because there's just so many people.
Yeah.
But there's people in behind, there's culinary, there's, the camera guys, there's, wranglers, there's PAs everywhere. And they're just, every single one of them are so amazing.
Yeah.
Like I said, they took such good care of us and me especially, during the Showstopper. And I can't thank them enough. Like
Yeah.
they're just such amazing people.
I have
It
to
does.
pause for. So you were talking about the Showstopper, and you were talking about this wonderful crew that took such good care of you. So if you're able to, please give us a little bit more information or tell us about your experience on the show, because we know you were there for a lot longer than it seemed on TV, because you
Mhm.
got there, you got familiarized with the tent, you got to know everybody, you got to do all of those little video clips that you were talking about, like the baker's dozen. I was very proud of you for knowing that was 13.
Doesn't everybody know that?
No, no, I'm
Maybe
not naming any
maybe it's
names.
an age thing.
Or maybe
Maybe
it was a joke.
Yeah, maybe.
Let's give them the benefit of the doubt
okay.
that it was a
Joke.
joke.
I haven't seen that clip.
It's a good one. I liked it.
Oh,
Um, all right.
I
So
remember it.
we would
It-
love to hear whatever you're able to tell us about your time there and how things went.
well, I mean, the signature I thought went pretty well. Timing wise, I think we were all pretty good. I mean, there was a few of us that were like, okay, let's get this done because you're still conscious of how much time is left. And we can ask, there's people in that center aisle, like there's a ton of people um that are all have different things to do. And the, the group especially that we wouldn't be able to do anything without is culinary. The
Mhm.
culinary team makes that show happen because we literally wouldn't be able to do anything without them. So it's Grace, the culinary director, and then all of her people.
Mhm.
Um, and a lot of them are in between. So when I had to start my Showstopper over, I needed more eggs and butter and blueberries and whatever, and they were just on it. Like things would just appear on your bench.
wow.
And,
I need that.
they made sure,
Yes.
yeah, they made sure that I had something to present. And
Nice.
honestly, if it wasn't for Grace, I probably wouldn't have been able to.
Hmm.
I'm gonna go back to the signature though. So we did the signature, and there's still a little bit of nerves there. But the first day that we were there, and they brought us down to the tent, I started to tell you, we walked down, and I had a sore foot at the time, so I was the last one to get down there, and Andrea, one of our wranglers, was with me, and you come around this corner, and you can see the white of the tent. And then I could just feel my heart start to
Yeah.
erase a little bit faster. And then once I came, and everybody's way ahead of me, they're almost like to the stairs. And once I came around the corner and I could see them all going up the stairs, that I just stopped. And Andrew just looked at me, she's like, "You okay?" And I'm like, "Yes, I'm fine."
Oh, oh,
So then I made my way over
emotion.
there and I got up the stairs, and we're all like, "Oh my God, we're here." And then all of a sudden, guess who comes around the corner? And it's Anne and Alan and Kyla and Bruno. And I mean, I lost it again, but they didn't tell us that they were down there. We
Hmm.
didn't know, that's when they were doing their pictures and some of the opening stuff and their things they have to do. But we didn't know they were down there, and we certainly didn't know they were coming out to say hi. All we knew is that we were going to come into the tent and take a look at the benches, talk to the culinary team, figure out, get an idea of where things were, if there was anything extra we wanted to have around and so on, especially for the signature. So yeah, when they came out around the corner, I thought, okay, yeah,
It's real.
I'm here. It's
Yeah,
real.
it's so
Yeah.
real at that
Yeah. And
moment.
they're all just so nice. I mean, Anne hugged me like 3 times.
Oh,
Just
You
they're
guys
just
matched in
so
the first
lovely.
episode.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was
Hey,
awesome.
yeah. But they all are like, they're so lovely. And because it was nice to be able to just spend a few minutes just, saying hi and chatting with them and stuff. And then we went into the tent. And yeah, that's another thing I'll never forget. The first time I actually walked in there and realizing that it's a lot bigger in person than it looks on TV.
Really?
Oh,
Yeah.
it has to
Wow.
be, right? Because they have
Yeah.
the outside areas and the places where they're filming from and
Yeah,
yeah.
the tent itself, and there's a part on the back where all the equipment and stuff is kept and we can't go back there. But um, the part that we're in and like all the benches are set up and the decorations at the end and the bit on the side, where they sit and have their chats
Yeah.
in between and like everything was set up already and it
Dream
was
come true.
exactly like it is on TV and it was just so overwhelming, but so cool. And I'm like,
I
yeah,
bet.
this is real. I'm gonna do this. I'm in our tent.
You
Yeah,
did it.
I'll never forget that ever.
Yeah.
You did it.
Awesome.
You were there.
It was there. And you know what? I did because different people have said, oh, I couldn't do that. I couldn't do that. I'd be so nervous. And I'm like, you know what? I wasn't.
Hmm.
I felt as prepared as you can be. I mean, nobody's ever baked, as far as I know, nobody's ever baked in a tent before.
Mhm.
So, as much as you can know things ahead of time, you know, this is, watch out for this and it's going to be hot and blah, 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 and keep an eye on your oven. Um, as much as you're told that beforehand, until you're actually standing there in front of your bench
Can't. You
and
can't
you feel
know.
that heat coming off your oven because it's been preheating for 3 hours. It, yeah, like apparently one of the warmest Mays on record up there. And that first week was really hot. It
Mhm.
was abnormally hot for
Mhm.
May. I think it was 32 or 33 degrees outside the tent that day.
Yeah.
And then, like, Stephen Vincent said, you add in all the people. So
Mhm.
all of the lights, all the people, the
Oh, really?
cameras, all of us, plus 10 ovens going.
Yeah.
It's hot. I mean,
Mhm.
it's hotter than this girl from Black River has ever been in. Like, it doesn't matter how many times people tell you it's going to be hot until and then you're not just sitting in it. You're,
Working, moving.
running around and you're doing things and
Yeah.
you're in front of your oven that's, giving off lots of heat and stuff. And yeah, it was a new level of hot. And I thought that I had been drinking enough. I mean, they give us tons of water. There's Gatorade. They feed us breakfast in the morning. And I think I only ate half of my breakfast that
You're
morning.
nervous?
A little bit nervous, but more because I didn't want to have to run to the washroom in the
Oh,
middle of
yeah,
the night
yeah. Yeah, okay.
because there isn't one there. Like you would have to go back to there's just no time for that. So I didn't eat all of it. Um, I felt like I was drinking enough though, and it was after, so this is during the showstopper. It was after I had restarted my cakes.
Mhm.
So I had mixed them up well. Everything was going good. I thought it was going to come out of the pans well, and that literally has never happened to me ever. Like I'm not gentle when I'm flipping cakes out of my pans. I'm
Mhm.
not. I don't need to be like I want to make sure they're going to come out all in one piece and not stick to the pan. So I flip them right out and put them right on. It's loud
Mhm.
and put them right onto a rack. So I did that, and two of them fell apart when I did it, and I
Oh.
didn't know what to do, and I couldn't figure out. I
Mhm.
knew it was baked. It had to be in there long enough. I knew it was baked. And the only thing I can figure is that it was the blueberries. And then I did put too many of them in it because they were so big.
Mhm.
But I wanted them to have a good distribution throughout the cake batter and I wanted them to be able to see it and taste them. But yeah, it was too many and they were massive. So I thought, can I put this back together if it's cool enough? Like all of this stuff is going through my head.
Okay.
And I said, then I have to do this again. So I think I mixed that. I've done that cake so many times. It's my grandmother's. One, two, three, four cake recipe, her vanilla cake recipe that she made for all of our birthday cakes when we were kids. And I love it. I can do it in my sleep.
Yeah.
It's, I haven't had to look at the recipe in 4 years. I know it inside and out. And I thought, okay, I can do this, but it is the fastest I have ever put that cake together.
Yeah.
The second time. So, the thing that took the longest was zesting all the lemons.
Hmm.
So
You had to do that twice.
yeah, so I'm like, yelling to Culinary and Grace. I'm like, can I have this? Can I have that? And things just appeared in seconds. And I got it together and I got it in the oven. And I thought, okay, I can breathe now. It's in the oven. I knew I had 25 minutes. And I was planning to do cardamom sugar cookies as the thistles and the shamrock decorations that were going to be on the inside of the sled cake. That was already mixed and it was chilling in the fridge. So I thought, okay, I've got 25 minutes. I'm going to start my Swiss meringue. So I started that, got it going. It was pretty well done. And I remember bending down to get something because they put some of the stuff that we need that we don't have room for on our benches, like in trays on the floor beside us. And I bent down to get something. And as soon as I stood up, I looked right at Grace. The room started to spin, said, I don't feel good. And she just from those 3 words, it just was chaos for me. The medic came out, they were putting bags of ice. Like I felt like I was going to pass out or puke or both. And
Oh,
they were
Christine.
putting baggies of ice and wet frozen tea towels on me. And it just felt like somebody had dipped me in a vat of hot water. And I thought, is this a hot flash? Like I didn't know what it was.
Mhm.
And I mean, I've passed out before, but it's been years. And it scared me so bad that I ended up having a panic attack. And after a few minutes of me not coming out of that at all, they were like, okay, we got to get her out of here. Like, take her out.
So you
And
left the tent in the middle
yeah,
of the showstopper.
I had to. They took me out of there. And I was out there, I don't even know, an hour, maybe an hour and a half.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's so much
Mm.
time.
Christine,
Like
that's like,
they were
is it
trying to
like,
get me to eat stuff. They were still putting ice on me, trying to make me drink. And I was just beside myself. Like because the whole time my mind is racing, like A, I couldn't stop hyperventilating, and B, I'm then it would
To get
go,
back.
my cake's still in the oven. So then they're like, don't worry about your cake. Like, and I said, but my buttercream's out there too. It's got to go. Like the whole time,
you're
I'm
worried?
like crying and thinking my stuff is still in there. Like I've got. Anyway, so I was in the van for a while. And once I calmed down enough and cooled down enough and I stopped. It was just that I couldn't, every time I opened my eyes, things would spin and it took forever for that to go away. And once it finally did, they're like, okay, you don't have a ton of time, but and I said, yes, I want to go back in there. I want to finish this.
Did they check your blood pressure and everything?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they checked everything. I mean, physically, I was fine. Once they got, some stuff into me and I was cooled down. They fixed me up. And then I got back
You
in there.
looked great.
You did. You
We
look
never would have
beautiful.
known that you
No.
left.
Yeah. Yeah, they just seriously, they say it takes a village, and it took a village to get me back in there. But once I did get back in there, then it was up to me to say, okay, what am I doing with this? And they knew I wasn't going to have time to make the cookies. And that was my main decoration. I mean, the wafer paper decorations that I was going to, cut out and paint, those were extra things really.
Yeah.
So they went and got some edible flowers for me to use. New Brunswick's provincial flowers, the purple violet. So they had violets and pansies and things that I could put on that were all edible. And I did, okay, so I'm like, I'm stacking, I'm filling. And I mean, at one point I thought, okay, I'm going to do a blueberry compote too. as a filling, and I thought that's too runny. I don't have time. It's not like I don't have time to chill this.
Yeah.
I have to chill my dam, especially when I'm doing Swiss meringue.
Yeah.
I have to chill my dam with every layer. And I
Mhm.
knew I didn't have time for that. I think I only had about half an hour left by the time I got back in there. So I thought, okay, well, I'll do the Swiss meringue, the Swiss meringue buttercream, but then I'll put the fresh berries in. Because I had a ton of berries. Um, and I wanted both the lemon and the blueberry to come through together. And I thought, okay, well, I've got to have more blueberries somewhere than just in the cake batter. So I put fresh blueberries in it. It looked really pretty too when
It
they did.
did. It was beautiful.
Like when they cut it, I was glad that she like put a piece up and she said, the distribution of berries was good. I'm like, good,
Yeah.
because that's what I
Yeah.
wanted.
Yeah.
Like you said yesterday, like hindsight's 2020, would I have been able to split it,
Yeah.
just cut it in half? I was scared
Potentially.
it was going to fall apart because it was so hot in there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Swiss meringue, when it's warm,
Yeah.
is really like soft. It can get very, sorry, I gotta move this. Swiss meringue, when it's warm, gets very, very soft. And I was just scared if I stacked it all and I didn't have time to chill it. So I'm like icing,
Mm.
coating, layer, like there was no chilling in between. So if I had cut that, I was scared it was just gonna all ooze out.
Yeah.
Do you have
And that's the
freezing?
main reason why I didn't.
Did you have access to freezing?
Probably. Like
Yeah.
I know they
But
have it out.
moving so
Like if I had
fast.
asked for it, I probably could have, but my
Yeah.
head at the time was not thinking of stuff.
No, of
Like,
course.
No, you
Yeah.
were, I mean, obviously, and you're probably not 100% at that point anywhere close to that as well. So the fact, in spite of all of that, you still got such a beautiful cake to present. And even Kyla's words about your cake were just so beautiful. If that was the brief, right? If it was a bridal shower cake, it would be perfect for it because it was such a stunning, beautiful, beautiful cake. And even Bruno, he loved the texture of it, the distribution of the blueberries, Kyla was saying as well. I mean, it was so good. It just needed to be cut in the middle. And
yeah,
so,
But
yeah,
it would have just,
yeah, oozed.
it
Yeah.
would have been the brief.
Oh,
I
Chris,
know.
I'm just
well,
heartbroken for
Yeah.
you.
yeah.
I try not to say what if because there's no point,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
Um, but for a long time after
Yeah.
I got home, I had a hard time when I got home.
Of course.
Um, it because it's so fast too.
Mhm.
Like, especially when you're the first one to go, at some days it feels like you've been there for a month,
Mhm.
but when it came down to it, I was really only there, I don't even know. It was less than 2 weeks.
Mhm.
And then it's fast. Like you go home and everybody else is still there.
Yeah. You're cut off from your
Yeah.
baking
Yeah,
family.
completely. Like there was no real communication between any of us. And that's what I had the hardest time with, is not hearing from them. And I
Yeah.
know they were busy,
And
like
you
I know,
understand what
Oh,
it's important
yeah.
to keep the secrecy of the show,
Oh,
like none of
it's
that
that, and
get out and
they're so busy. Like they don't, especially once you get into the later weeks, because we only had time from the time they tell you you're on the show to the time we flew to Toronto. It was about 5 weeks, 4 or 5 weeks.
not a lot of time.
And no, so I mean, they had given us all 8 weeks of briefs, um, so that we could plan and
Mhm.
practice, but you really only had time to practice unless you deliberately went ahead.
Yeah.
And I don't know that any of us did. So they might have. I don't think we did. Um, I certainly didn't. I got the first 5 weeks
Mhm.
practiced. So once you're up there, you need that extra time, when you're not in the tent. So on the days off or, when you get home at night or whatever, if it's not a super long day, then you're practicing in your room.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I
So now what I think is we're running short on time. So let's play a really quick game of this or
Or
that. You get to play it with us.
Yay.
You've been looking forward to this.
I always do when I watch you guys do it, but you can't
All
hear
right.
me.
Oh,
First
that's awesome.
question. Go ahead, Christina.
Cake or cupcakes?
Cake,
To eat or to bake?
both.
Both, yeah. Well, you do
Yeah.
such beautiful work on both of them.
Second.
Your cupcakes are so beautiful, and your cakes are gorgeous as well. But I know you have fun doing both of them. So,
I do. Yeah, it's just I think with cakes there's just more opportunity for decoration. Yes. I do a lot of filled cupcakes. And it's funny because when people ask for them, I'll ask them, like, do you want a filling? And it doesn't even occur to them that you can put a filling in a cupcake, and you can. And it's easy to do. It doesn't take, it's a little snippet of something extra, and it gives you another flavor.
It just
And
adds something to the cupcakes, yeah.
yeah, and they're quicker to do. So in that way, I like them.
Mhm.
But I love the blank canvas that I have with, a 3-layer cake.
Totally. I get that.
Yep.
Yeah.
Sweet bakes or savory bakes?
Um, I've done some savory ones lately, and I'm liking them, and I
Mhm.
want to do them again, but I'm a sweet girl, always have been.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get you on
I
that
hear
one.
ya. I hear ya. Cool. Buttercream, American, Swiss, Italian, or another type of buttercream?
Mm. 4 years ago, all I knew was American because that's all anybody made here.
Mhm.
Unless it was, boiled icing, which I absolutely love. Boiled icing on a chocolate cake, there's nothing better than that. But in terms of what I do now, it's Swiss meringue 100%.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
You just need to add more of it to your nephew's cakes, apparently.
Yeah, I do.
Story for
That was
another
such a
time.
cute little snippet.
Yeah. Okay, cookies, crunchy or chewy?
Crunchy. Absolutely
Huh?
crunchy.
So you like
Yeah.
them more thin and crunchy, like
Yes.
snappy, like ginger snaps and
Um, I'm not a huge ginger snap fan. But even when I make my sugar cookies, I'm
Like them
not
to
like
have
a
snap.
soft, I'm
yeah.
not a soft, cakey
Yeah.
sugar cookie fan. I like to cook them probably a little bit more than you're supposed to so that you do get some of the brown around the edge
Yeah.
because that's caramelizing the butter.
Mm-hmm.
That's where the flavor is.
Yeah.
And to me, that's just, I mean, oh, yeah.
Nothing
Um,
better than caramelized butter.
I know.
exactly. Yeah. Brown butter all the way. Everything
Brown
should have
butter.
brown in it.
Brown butter.
Yeah. But like I have yes, exactly.
Love it.
I have an oatmeal cookie recipe that I over bake on purpose because once you do, and like the whole outside, like quarter of an inch is a caramel, like a
Oh,
caramelized
yum,
brown.
yum.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
With a cup of coffee, there's nothing. Yeah, it's
That
so
sounds
good.
awesome.
So
Sounds
Oh,
amazing.
that does sound good. Yeah.
Mm.
No, I'm with you all the way on that. That's awesome. Chocolate, white, milk, dark, or a different type of chocolate?
Oh, you guys know the answer to this one. Um, for ganache, I like the semi-sweet.
Okay.
For just like a regular chocolate ganache, whether I'm, adding stuff to it or just a plain ganache filling, the semi-sweet. To eat white.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I've always loved white chocolate. And one of the fillings that I make for cakes is either strawberry or raspberry cream cheese white chocolate ganache.
Oh, yum, yum, yum.
So good.
Sounds amazing.
And I've done it with like a reduction of fruit,
Mhm.
but I've also done it with freeze-dried
Mhm.
fruit.
Absolutely.
One of the markets on Saturdays, up in Moncton, the Dieppe one actually, there's a lady there that does her own, like it's local fruit we get in the summertime, but it's so good. And I love getting my freeze-dried berries from her because they make such a difference, whether it's in buttercream or the ganache,
Yeah.
just as as an ingredient in the batter or whatever. It's so good. Like,
Absolutely.
I don't want to buy it anywhere else but from her. So
Yeah, and I love the freeze-dried fruits, especially because they don't add any extra moisture to your cakes.
That's a really good point. How about some
It's-
freeze-dried blueberries?
yeah, maybe I should use freeze-dried blueberries.
Yes.
Too late. Next
Your
fancy
next baking competition.
Yay!
Hey, they may do the holiday special sometime. I don't
That
know.
would be awesome.
Yeah, that would be actually nice to bring back some of the people that
Yeah.
came out that
Yeah,
left in the first week, right?
A redemption.
I saw that online actually. Somebody said that like they should do after season 10,
Mhm.
like season 11 should be the 10 people who went home first.
That's
That
a great
would be
idea.
so
Like,
awesome.
Actually, I like that
That's
almost
a great
better.
idea.
That actually
yeah,
would
of course
be
it's a great idea.
fantastic. Yeah,
Yeah, I like that almost
you know
better
what?
than the 10 winners idea.
yeah.
Well, I mean,
Hmm.
I would love to do it again,
Okay.
to have not a do-over, but to just be in that space
To
again.
really do it. Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, I love Christmas. It's my favorite holiday to be in the tent when it's all decked out in Christmas decorations and to bake holiday. Like that's my favorite
Holiday
time of year for
flavors.
baking. That's like to do Christmas or holiday bakes
Yeah.
in the
That'd be
tent
amazing.
would just be next level. Like
Absolutely.
I would love to.
Love it.
Yeah.
Next question.
Yes.
Weighing ingredients or measuring them?
I am moving more towards weight recipes.
Okay.
Yeah. And I'm even trying to convert, other than like my go-to cake recipes, my chocolate, my vanilla, I am converting some of them now to weight measurements
Yeah.
because it's just more accurate.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Definitely.
Yeah,
I agree with
especially
you
with
on
all the
that.
different elements, humidity, all of
Yeah.
that kind of stuff. But then also when you're doing, like, if you need, to either increase this, make it bigger or make it smaller or whatever, it's just a whole lot easier. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. And it takes the guesswork out of it. Like I know there's been times that I've made something and it didn't turn out. And I'm like, did I put too much flour in? Did I forget something? Like when you're weighing it out, it's a lot harder. It's
You
not
can't
impossible. It's a
miscount your
lot harder to
scoops.
screw it up.
Right.
Yeah. It
Yeah.
is.
As long as your scale works, it's,
Well, and
as long as-
that's a problem if it doesn't,
Yes.
because
If
that
it-
has happened. The batteries run
if
out.
the batteries
What's
die,
happening?
The batteries run out and then you use somebody's
Don't.
knife to actually screw the screw to.
Okay, I
Little
am
inside
so
joke, a
sorry
little
that I
inside
broke
joke.
your knife trying to open the battery on your scale. Oh, I'm bad.
All good. It's all good. Bread or pastry?
sorry.
Funny because you talked about both of these being things that you had to learn. So bread or pastry, my dear?
Which is my favorite?
Yeah. That is the whole point of this or that.
Yeah. Well, no, to eat bread, but
Okay.
to bake,
Pastry.
no,
No.
scratch that. Pastry for both. Yeah.
Pastry for both. Okay.
All right. We accept that.
Fair. That's
There's
fair.
nothing like a Danish.
You know what? There's zero wrong. Like there's no right or wrong answer, especially with that one. Especially with that one.
Unless it's the last question.
All right. Well,
We've got a couple to go.
we're not there yet.
We're not quite there.
Macarons or shoe?
Shoe.
You, because that was one of your first things you ever did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love it. I absolutely love it. It took me a long time to get the courage up to make macarons, and I credit Amanda from season 5 with helping me with that. And it's not a hard process. I mean, there's not a ton of ingredients. it comes down to consistency and your oven.
Yeah.
And if you don't know your oven, if you don't have an oven thermometer, to me, you can't do macarons. You have to know the temperature that works for your oven. And you can look at 16 different recipes and they're going to tell you different temperatures and different times because that's what worked for that person in their oven, in their kitchen, wherever they live.
Yeah.
And those variables make a difference with those. Yeah. They just do. So there was a bit of practice with those, but I think I got it. I'm impatient with them. I don't let them rest on their own. I oven rest them.
Mm.
That was something Amanda taught me to do. And I mean, I get the feet most of the time. And I love them. I've got a bunch in the freezer now that, I'll do up a few and stick them on top of a cake, or I'll put them on some kind of a sweet platter or whatever. And they're fun to decorate. There's just so many options with them. I know Bruno doesn't.
I know, I saw
Bruno
that.
doesn't like the fancy flavors, but
Just plain coffee one.
Yeah, well, you know what? My favorite, and it's no longer in Moncton, I don't think, because I think she moved. But there was a gal in Dieppe that she was a pastry chef. She had a bakery, and her raspberry macarons were the best I've ever tasted in my life. Like I would go and get just like a box of 10 of just the raspberry ones. I'd clean her out of the raspberry. Those ones are my favorite, but there's so many options and they're fun to decorate and they're fun to come up with different flavors. But in terms of eating, I think there's even more possibilities and options when it comes to choux. I mean, everything from just a simple cream puff with, pastry cream or ice cream in them to, chicken salad if you want to do something savory, like a nice cheese filling or or eclairs. I mean, I love eclairs.
Yeah.
And I don't do enough choux. So that's something I still want to.
All right, here's your reminder that you're the choux girl. She's the macaron girl, and you're the choux girl. So make some choux.
Yes, I do.
Ford just fell off he was standing on the arm of the chair and he just fell completely off. So sorry to interrupt.
Poor baby.
All right. Signature, technical, or showstopper?
Showstopper.
Yeah. Really? Yeah. Even after that experience?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Because you have more time.
That's true.
Gives you the opportunity to really, stretch your muscles. Like you can really, it's still, it's still tight. Because other than practice for the show, I've never done a cake start to finish in
4 hours.
4 hours. I don't. I mean, I plan throughout the week. I bake one day, I do fillings another day, I do icing another day, and then I assemble another day. Like it's just, especially if I have multiple ones to do for the same day. So you just don't sit, like I don't sit down and do a cake like that in 4 hours.
No.
And I had to. And I did time myself when I practiced it at home. And I was able to get it done in the time. I don't know, even if I had been able to do everything that I wanted to do, would it have been enough? I liked it and I was happy with it. And everything to me, the best thing is that it tasted good.
Yeah.
I was happy with the cookies that I was going to make for decorations. Cardamom sugar cookies go really well with, blueberries. And so I was happy with the flavors that I chose. I was happy with the decorations. I was happy with what they had planned. And I was glad when they aired it that the sketch that she did was of what I planned to do and not what I ended up doing.
Yeah.
So I mean, I would love to have that sketch, but I'm glad that they showed, like, people could see what I was planning.
Yeah.
So if I'm allowed, and I think I am, I am going to post my practice bakes for everything.
That would be great.
After the episode airs, I'm going to post what I had practiced at home.
That'd be awesome. We'd love to see that. Beautiful bakes they're going to look like.
All right, my friend. The most important question here. Are you ready? The last question.
I think I'm ready.
Are
Okay.
you sure?
I've been ready for this since
Okay.
June.
Are you
Right.
sure you're completely ready for this
Yes,
one?
yeah.
Here we
Okay,
go. Okay.
let's hear
Lisa and Christina or Stephen and Vincent?
That's not fair.
it.
I think it was better because our original question was going to be Lisa or Christina. And
Oh,
we
that's
decided to change that.
well. Yeah, that no, I
No,
wouldn't.
you're not answering that question. That's
I'm
fine.
not answering that question.
Butter
Well,
tart.
obviously, I mean, I season 5 until season 8, season 5 holds a very special
Yes.
place in my heart. It is. I mean, I love everybody that's been on the show. I have binged watched every season, but season 5
Mhm.
is my favorite. It is. And I mean, partially because I'm, friends with Amanda now and
Yeah.
have been able to chat with a lot of the other bakers that were on
Mhm.
that season, and they've all been
They're
like since they announced all of us for season 8, they've all been incredibly kind. Everybody has like the amount of messages I've gotten, not just from people I know and my
wonderful.
family, my friends, whatever, but the other bakers and bakers from the Australian shows and the British shows. And,
It's
I got
wonderful.
a really sweet message from Val from the British show. She's a sweetheart. Um, and messages from a couple of the guys that are on the Australian one right now. Like
Yeah,
it's just everybody's
it's
been
wonderful.
so sweet and
It's a real
so kind.
family.
Yeah, and that was even before it aired. And then since, yes, my phone has been blowing up since Monday morning.
Oh,
But we asked you
Um,
a question.
yeah.
oh, sorry.
I'm thinking the way she's going at this,
She's going to say Stephen
we're
Vincent.
not, I don't think we're faring very well on this one, Lisa. I'm sorry.
Okay, interview over.
Well, so nice to know
No,
you,
no, no,
Yeah.
no, no.
Christine.
Okay, we're
Yeah,
done
we
now.
may or may not talk to you
No.
again.
You know, you both know how
We know.
much I love you.
We know.
Yeah.
We love you.
We love you too. But
I
it's okay. It was a trick question.
It was just for funsies.
That's not what I thought you were going to ask me
I
either.
No,
know. Well, we're now going to ask you.
we're now
Butter
going to
tart.
ask you butter tarts, raisins, no raisins, and we're going to add a couple of wild cards in this one. Currants, bacon.
Bacon.
That's Steve. That's Steve.
Oh, seriously?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh
certainly.
yes, I remember his, yeah.
Mhm.
Um, you know the answer to this already. No way. No
That's
raisins.
fine. I still love you.
I've actually never had them with currants in it, so I
Oh.
can't say yes or no to that. I'd have to try it.
Yeah.
I'll make you
So
some.
I was gonna say next time I come out,
Yeah.
which hopefully isn't, forever, but you guys can always come out here too,
That's true. One of these days.
Yes.
We're going to do a cross country tour.
Yes, at some
And
point.
then
Yeah.
yeah. And even if we don't do the cross country tour anytime soon, we'll come out and see you.
Well, as soon as I win the lottery,
Yeah, that
I'm
sounds
just
great.
gonna go from house to house.
That's awesome. Visit all the bakers everywhere.
Yeah.
So fun.
79 houses. They're all gonna put up with me.
Oh,
Yeah, they not currants, no. But my favorite actually is either plain or pecans.
Okay.
I
okay.
love pecan butter tarts. Like even like the Tim Horton, where'd
That's
you
one
get
of
that?
Jen's.
Is it really?
Yeah.
Oh, oh, that was mean. Thanks.
Oh, sorry. I don't mean to be mean. Sorry, love.
Yeah, no, that looks amazing. Yeah, pecans are, yes, I remember her saying that. Her grandmother used to put pecans in
Yeah.
something else, I think.
Actually, I think she said her grandmother's recipe has 5 raisins, very specific, and 1 pecan, like a pecan
Okay.
half in
Not
there.
5 kinds of raisins, just 5 raisins.
5
5
raisins and
Gotcha.
one pecan half.
Yeah. No,
I get it
yeah,
now.
pecans.
So, Christine, before you leave us, please give us a baking scrap.
I have been thinking about this for a while, and there's been so many other good tips that I'm like, I don't know if I have, I'm just, a lot of what I do is instinct, so I don't
Yes.
know that other people don't do it. But one thing that I've started doing recently, especially when I did switch to Swiss meringue buttercream, and I've had a lot of weddings where I've needed to do multiple batches,
Mhm.
I make sure I have two separate mixing bowls. You know, a lot of times people use like the mixer bowl on the double boiler and I don't do that
Oh.
because to me it takes a lot longer for that to cool down when you're doing everything in the same bowl. So even
Hmm.
though it's more dishes, I have really three different bowls. So I have just a regular stainless steel bowl that I do the sugar and the egg whites in over the simmering water.
Yeah.
And then once they're ready, I dump them into a mixer bowl that I've cleaned with vinegar and, you know, and the whisk. And then when my meringue's ready, and I only do this if I need multiple batches. If I only need one, then I just do everything in. I still do the separate stainless steel bowl over the
Mhm.
water, but
Mhm.
I only use one mixer bowl. But if I'm doing multiple batches, then I'll dump the egg whites into one, do up my meringue, and then I dump the meringue into another clean bowl, and that's what I mix the butter into, and I keep them separate so that I don't have to wash them in between and then
Mhm.
clean them out with
Yeah.
vinegar
Yeah.
because you guys know you can't get any fat at all in your
Yeah.
egg whites.
Mhm.
So if I have one dedicated to just the egg whites and one to adding the butter, then
Mhm.
I can do multiple batches without having to clean them in between because you're
Ah,
putting the same thing in it every time.
yeah.
That's really
Um,
smart.
Really
and then
smart.
I have a massive
Yeah.
stainless steel bowl that once the butter's all mixed in and the vanilla and the salt and everything, like whatever flavor you're putting in, I dump it into the big one and I just keep adding my batches in there.
Wow, that is awesome. I love that tip. That's fantastic.
That is great.
Especially the thought of moving it off the stove and then putting it into a cooler bowl
It
immediately.
Yes.
cools down faster. And I mean,
Must. Yeah.
I run on the warm side anyway these days, so I always have a fan going. So I move the fan over and I put the fan on it.
Yeah.
But switching the bowls makes a
Yeah.
difference. I think it
Right.
cuts like 10 minutes.
I
And
would
That's
say, yeah.
huge.
Must.
Yeah.
That is
Uh,
fantastic. Thank you for coming,
Great, great tip.
chatting with us, and for sharing that with us. That's amazing.
We so appreciate you. As you know, we love you, Christine. We are so thrilled that you did get that opportunity to go into the tent. And we really do hope that they'll have a redemption series, whether it be like a holiday special, which I think would be amazing, or if they actually had a full season. I think that's such a brilliant, brilliant idea. We'd
That would
love
be great.
nothing more than to see you back on our small screens in some sort of capacity because you are such an incredibly skilled and beautiful baker. And it's just, I'm sad that we can't continue seeing you on the rest of the season of Great Canadian Baking Show, but we are so thrilled that you did have that opportunity to bake in there. And we
Mm.
can't see what you get to next because I know that you're just a beautiful star and you shine so brightly. And we're so honored to know you.
We love you.
We
I love
really
you
do.
guys so much. I couldn't have done any of this without you guys, seriously.
Yes, you
Like,
could have. You kind of
no,
did because we didn't know you were going to be on the show.
well,
So
no,
we
but I
kind of
mean,
did.
we
We had
still, well,
nothing to do with it.
no, but leading up to it, all of it, when we're all, getting ready for the in-person audition and practicing and all of that we've been doing,
Ever.
since before even season 8.
Yeah.
Being able to talk to people who love it as much as you do
And to believe
makes
in
such
each
a
other,
difference.
to
It
have that
because they
faith.
get it.
Yeah.
They get you.
Yeah.
And you guys don't look at me like I'm nuts when I say I just got 20 pounds of butter for free.
We're like,
Yeah.
what? You got 20 pounds of
Where
butter
can
for
I
free?
get that? Yeah.
How?
Yeah.
All right.
I'll tell you my secret to that later.
Yes.
All right. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. We're not going to have time for a wrap up today, but you know what? It just seems right for us to end this with the three of us. This is the Trans Canada Tarts, Lisa and Christina and Christine, signing off with happy baking.
Happy
Happy
baking,
baking.
everybody. Mwah.